Time for the infamous Peninsula of Power. Welcome back. Yes, there will be Alma. There will be a couple of annoying pests along the way, but they won't be a bother.
$1,500 towards the incentive. We are more than 75% of the way there, in fact 78% of the way there, and we just got another donation that says $50 from Nux Tenma that says more TaskBot. And I'd like to know, why would they want to see that bonus incentive run?
You absolutely want to see this 100% run. Yeah, you don't want to miss this. It's one of the most astounding dual assisted speedruns out there for just beating the game quickly. It's incredible to see. And one thing I should note though, there's actually already been some improvements discovered between the time when this dual assisted speedrun was created and now when we're just playing it. There have been some improvements by the RTA community, so there are now some routes that are faster that are being actively
I need to make sure I'm actually going the right way.
Version. It's amazing that games from the 1980s are still ripe with opportunities for improvement. Yep, for sure.
Well,
yep, I am.
The more popular games, the ones that are better known, you know, I think that when you only have one or two people digging into a game, you often won't find certain things for a long time. But
I think I needed to go north instead of south.
Constantly,
sure.
There are so many things that, you know, could possibly take another 50 years to find if you don't have that manpower behind it. So I love the sharing of knowledge, the community that comes with tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes both ways, because the routing that the RTA community does feeds into the glitches that are used by the RTA, or the task community, that are combined with routing from the RTA community. They get put together in a really fast way.
I like to imagine it's because players are still learning her time rewinding powers. Whenever she does succeed, everyone is disoriented when it happens.
Are now being incorporated into RTA runs.
So the enemies are like, why are they so confused? Yes, jump them.
They exist. And sometimes the tricks can be used, but sometimes you can figure out a way to just do a setup that's a little bit slower, but still essentially gets the same effect.
Yeah, I love that symbiotic nature between the two communities. By the way, there was a third block that you're actually supposed to break there.
Running out of pure.
It was right through the first block.
Actually, thank you, Lord Tom.
Yeah, just in Arachnid.
And this is actually a fairly established, I don't want to call it dated run, but it was made several years ago now, and it's this has the time. It's only been recently that a lot of things have started being discovered that it's absolutely the route into it.
Twango, did you know that we just hit $33,000 in Enable Gamers?
Nice.
And we got a $250 donation from Julie Cat that says, TaskBot, playing Metroid? My weekend is complete.
Nice. Thank you so much, Julie Cat. Thank you. That's a big donation.
How many people in the audience have a crush on TaskBot?
If the answer isn't yes, I don't believe it. He's very popular. I've been a apparently it is now canon that TaskBot is more than happy to love as many people as possible. So, just saying.
Thank you, TaskBot.
So right there was an instance of why we picked up the long beam early with that wave beam. So normally runners will only be able to clear about 2 of those blocks before having to morph to go through those like little 1-tile gaps. But TaskBot is quick enough to go a 3rd tile to get through there.
Where are we headed next?
So we have one more item to pick up in Lower Norfair. We're gonna pick up a nice energy tank here. In my experience with like this game, typically you update because this is a very out of the way item to get. The TaskBot is gonna show us a different, a different way to move about this place. And I honestly didn't know this existed until yesterday. So we're gonna actually door wrap this door here, and we're going to kind of blindly navigate this here, and get all the way to this room here. And now there's a door here that just magically appeared just for this particular instance. And now we're heading down to the Ridley elevator. Yeah, there's not normally a door there. No. I'm not sure exactly why that happens, but it was the game got confused. It was incredibly cool when I first saw it.
Dwango, we also just hit $1,600.50.
I'm sure somebody else can explain it, but
so we are 82% of the way
in
there.
RPG Maker you can set overworld regions and make those regions have their own tiles. So what the programmers did is they accidentally programmed these 2 tiles I'm about to walk around on.
You know what? When you okay, this is
the encounters that are a little bit above you can see in that part of the map, which is normally you only have access to that part of the map very late into the game.
Quick up input. What that does is that basically stops Samus from bouncing around the screen.
Like late, mid to early late game.
That's how you know it's being done. Or the controller flash.
In between the transition between mid to late game, I'd say.
Alright, so we have a couple items.
So the enemies here are really tough,
we make our way
but
and you'll see a lot of
they are doable,
TaskBot will turn around
and they have lots of good rewards. Oh, here they are.
Like reason being.
Alright, giants, that's a no-no. There's only a specific enemy encounter we want, and it's not these guys.
We want to kind of remove as many sprites as we possibly can on the screen just to reduce as much lag.
Yeah, lag management in this game is pretty critical.
The door causes lag?
It's a sprite. It is a sprite.
Oh my god, is that a Tyrannosaurus Rex?
That's how they coded it.
Wouldn't it despawn other sprites? Well, maybe not in this case, no.
Yeah.
TaskBot, you looking a little...
That's a rare encounter, what the fuck?
Are you okay, TaskBot?
That was 2 pulls that are
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh. I can't watch.
Why is it called Tyra instead of T-Rex?
3 health.
Are frost wolves? Okay. You know what, let me look up about the Peninsula of Power. Frost Wolves. Fire 2 is their weakness, yeah. And then there's the Zombies and Trolls, which is what we really want since they're weak to fire and harm. Can't run from Zombies. Alright. Hiya! Alright. Hell yeah, look at that. Immediately level 7. Alright, let's immediately save. Yeah, sure, I can use a cabin. Alright, let's try one more. That's literally the only reason why I saved. I could've just went straight back to Provoca.
Yeah, even
anyway,
with
as great as the Frost Wolves were there, watch the Zombies. That's where the real moneymaker is.
Enemies do 12. Without Various do 24. So a few hits and you're critical. So upcoming here, we are gonna make our normal route over to the boss of this area. Can you tell me what the boss of this area is?
No, I didn't get this far.
That was me.
James? Is James the boss here?
Well, alright.
Ridley?
Let me give you a hint.
Is it Ridley?
I was gonna say we got Ridley's lair.
Okay. So it's probably Ridley. That's my guess. Final answer.
Alright, yeah, so here we have the Dwango's favorite room. Yeah, this is the one. So there's actually a 2-tile gap that Samus is about to fall through here, that gets literally everybody. If you tell me that you avoided it in your childhood, first try, I don't believe it. No. But yeah, it gets everybody. If you miss that, you can go left. They got some platforming you can do that. It's just very, very ridiculous platforming. And you can go back up and get it. That jump right there.
Oh hey, Uma, just 2 hits now.
Is actually developer intended.
Alright. Looks like they're kinda weak to time-based magic too, so...
It is, I think it's 1
epic. Oh, and there's the answer. Late bloomer as always.
One or two pixels to make that jump. If not, you're gonna fall.
Alright, let's just run.
And yeah, no. Best way to do it is just kind of like one jump, if you know like that tech. But it was a pretty hard jump to make. You play rando in this
Twister.
That, right? Yeah, I had a rando speed where the
What did that do?
was behind that jump.
Oh god, there was that again, of course.
I was like, okay, I gotta change the launch. Oh, okay, well here we're there. Yeah, that happens.
There you go, that's the kind of damage I want to see Uma doing.
And we just hit Ridley in the face. It was more like the butt. Alright, we're getting there. Is it gonna detect donation? Yeah, alright, we got a donation. We got a couple of upgrades.
Oh, let's see. Do I have some donations for you? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have one from...
Dang it, now Tails is gonna lag even further behind.
Sakura that says, here, have a money. Read the end of...
Man, who came up with this
anyway,
rule?
from the back of the room. Kudos to the runners. Thank you so much, Dark Sakura.
And I'm afraid Pete's running.
Of not getting XP if you're dead.
It saves the frames.
It makes logical sense, but it's never... No one has ever said this was fun.
Thank you, audience, for your authority.
Even in the Origins.
Mine have been doing a lot in order to beat this. But also people here at TwitchCon, so seriously, all of you make a huge difference.
Did you see how they utilized that morph jump and held up to get fans to grab both of those missing packs?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's such a cool little thing to see.
role-playing games, which is D&D and stuff, I'm pretty sure no one ever liked it when dead people, unconscious people couldn't get XP. It just created animosity between the players. And then here, since you are just one person controlling multiple characters, it doesn't create animosity, but it is still annoying as fuck.
And then we'll be completely done with Norfair, like, entirely. I don't want to come back here. Do we have any other donations?
Yes, we have a $20 donation from Equals N. It says, Taskbot any percent run, let's go!
Let's go!
It's super close, but this run does not have a whole lot more time, so please get those donations in.
Yep, we also have a $5 donation from Anonymous that says, $5 donation train, go! Don't forget to add the incentive to your donation. I know that's good.
Yeah, if we could get that $5 donation train going, get that instead of rolling, that would be fantastic. Rolling like Samus.
It would look like a peppermint patty or like one of those hard candies, you know.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, but I never thought. Now I can't unsee that.
It's delicious.
This is your fault. I can't unsee that. Just By the way, we don't care about that platform right there. We're just gonna jump through it because that's just what we do.
Is it solid?
Yes.
I assume eventually I'll be all of my my spells for the Geomancer will be at level 2, will be at 2 uses.
Not quite that short, but it's short. Yeah, so this is 100%, this is about 35, 80%.
I already have iron armor if I'm correct.
Yeah, ish. I think it makes sense.
I don't have gloves.
It's a good watch, trust me. It is, because you have a lot more equipment in the 100% run to work with.
Yeah.
Very different techniques.
How do you have more equipment? This is 100%.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 100% run has a lot more equipment to work with.
Oh, I got you.
In the 80%.
Yeah, because you've been, like, there have been tricks using the waterfall here, a lot of tricks using, just using a lot of damage boost, but in the 80%, you're going to be taking a whole lot more damage, up taking you down to 30 energy, and will put you in danger a lot. I really wonder how they're going to navigate.
Alright, so we're leaving Norfair. This place stinks. We have some cleanup to do. Another double reset, doesn't it? Yeah, so another double reset to get us back to start. So yeah, whenever you update on the second controller, it does bring you back to the elevator of the zone that you're in. So when we go up that elevator, when you see Samus kind of like stutter,
Let's all go back and look at the
flicks for like 1 second.
Spell list for level 2.
You'll know that you're in the next area, so you can update and go back to the starting area.
Oh, the item
So we're gonna head
store.
over here to Creed's Lair, which
Need
is
to buy some shit.
the first area in the game that we're supposed to go to. But as far as routing sake, we do this one last because we're gonna grab a energy tank on our way into the final zone. This is also my favorite track in the game, but it's mine too. It's so good. I love Creed's Lair. The music was definitely uneven in this game. Some areas got wonderful compositions, and other areas got weak.
That's sort of the way that a lot of first games in the series work, though. Right? Yeah. Like Mega Man 1, some of the music was very hit and miss, and then Mega Man 2, bam, just banger after banger.
Oh, that's one of the reasons. No, this game. I love this game. Super Metroid is good in that regard. Okay, well, now I gotta ask what's your favorite track in Mega Man 2?
Mega Man 2.
Are we talking about the gateway Mega Man?
Quick Man. It's definitely not Quick Man. Okay,
The Desperate
annoying. Yeah. I don't know, probably Metal Man.
Okay, yeah, no, I can be honest with that, yeah. I can respect that. I'm a He-Man enjoyer. There's something
Right,
about that stage.
It also has Mark.
So good.
Dwango.
Oh, yes.
We just hit 91%
Get it.
We are gonna. I feel like we're gonna make it. We also got a $25 donation from Bango that says TaskBot's SMW Ace run in 2014 is what first got me into GDQ and Twitch in general.
Confusion seems far more useful than darkness to me, so I'll go teach slow and muddle. Muddle buds.
So if you want to be successful to this game, the natural progression of it, please tune in to HQ 2024 in January and watch this Metroid run. You're not going to be.
And then remove darkness would definitely be useful.
We have only about 7 minutes. Well, actually, we just hit 95%. We're at $1,900.
Oh, but
Oh, is it there?
again, I'm not really sure how many, how applicable this will be.
2125. We hit it. We're gonna do the 80% bonus run.
Thank you all so much for all the donations. You won't be disappointed in that one. We are
Yeah,
not
fuck
going
it.
to be
Darkness.
writing a whole lot of
Cure.
commentary in one sense because
At the very least, I know that will be useful in the dungeon we're going through right now.
One thing that differentiates CastBot's run here, as you can see,
Potentially.
we're in critical health.
Or not, maybe I should have went with silence after all.
So we're pretty low here. There is
The hell are you? And most of the level 2 spells are just really mid.
But TaskBot doesn't. TaskBot just show us how to do it. And that's great. That's not usually that easy. So we're gonna take this energy tank. Yeah. So, and then blow it away. Yeah, and then we're just gonna up A and just deliver all the energy we just gained. So, the game actually starts.
Those are the numbers I'm looking for.
There's actually 8 options in this game. Okay? And I don't know why. Alright, that's nice of you. Yeah. Maybe they were just like, you know what, let's, can we end this? Maybe, I don't know.
There's no advantage in getting this technology.
Tough guy, huh?
Does it take you back to
It'll overwrite the thing, and I think, if I remember correctly,
And it's not that far from the town.
Okay, if you wanted to go back and
Ow, it was critical.
that was good.
God dang it.
So we grabbed that to get ourselves at full health, and it's actually human viable. You want to up A right out of Green Slayer, but TaskBot is actually faster.
Not dealing with poison.
Out of that little lower tower from Green Slayer back to
Of course.
Red Star here. But human viable in 100% run. We actually just up A there. Just go shoot
Alright.
to Tori here. In our normal route, we go pick up Long Beam and then we go to Tori.
Now,
So yeah, while we're heading over here to Torian, this is a pretty long screen and the Torian elevator. We got about time for a couple of donations.
Sounds good. Okay, we have a $50 donation from Bobby Blackwood that says Rosencha versus TaskBot.
to the Peninsula.
Alright, I'll take you down, TaskBot.
We also have a $25 donation from Juker6.
At least they're very slow.
Left behind.
Nice.
It's kind of funny how much of a coincidence the Peninsula Tower is. How convenient some of these exploits seemingly are sometimes.
Alright, so nothing extremely technical about this. This is actually just a normal routing here through Torian.
Oh, just one damage, really?
The Rinkas are your
Okay, wow.
They will spawn and immediately just
Spoke too soon, I did. Oh no. Oh, we did it.
Probably the worst thing about this area. They create a ton of lag. They follow you, they chase you. Unless you just kind of 3 inches out of the way, then you're fine because they're just gonna keep going. And then you have
Whatever, we could keep going.
enemies of the game, veterans.
I would say, though, that lag actually was often sort of intended in some ways.
Ooh, now this I like.
A little bit more time to react. In fact, there are some games that if you play them with all the lag removed,
They're weak to burst as well, thankfully.
just because of how hard I don't think that's true with this game, obviously.
Oh shit.
Oh gosh, getting face right. Whoa, tap, what are you doing? You need those. Alright, so these are called Zepatites. They take a hit to clear. They do regenerate health. The first hit they cannot regenerate. So if you hit them once with a missile, they'll have 7, and then they'll permanently have 7 unless you die. But once you clear them,
I'm dead.
they're gone. Taskbot's gonna just sit here and just spam directly in the Mother Brain here while freezing these ringas, and Mother Brain's gone. But we're not done yet. We're gonna actually screen wrap here, because we can, and come out the lava and get through this door.
That's embarrassing.
Escape. Escape is just a vertical platforming section that is the same platforms over and over. Every, like, I think it's like 6 or 7 platforms on the same.
And I gotta buy everything again.
And that's 9 or 100%. And it's obligatory, we have to wait for this one other section to happen. Alright, let's swap over. We have made the 80% category, but before we get there, we got 100% of items and still managed.
Yeah, blindness doesn't last outside of combat anyway.
Girl, I didn't know Samus was dead. Oh, alright, well there's that.
Fuck it, let's get mute.
Alright, we are going to we are going to swap back over. Tech, are you ready with the 80% run? It is not. It is just the actual time. And you got the run on your phone, it has the exact estimate on it. Should be the run is yeah, we need that number. Yeah, 757. I mean 850. Yeah.
Also, I just want to chime in here and let you all know that we made this
Whoops.
bonus incentive, which is really incredible. Really happy. For the next game that we'll be doing, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Player 5, we have a bonus. We have a bid war incentive for that one. So I want to remind everybody that that's going to be our next bonus incentive that we'll be doing.
Awesome. Alright, well we're going to do the random clear swap again, and this is always a little dicey because it can fail, so I'm going to ruthlessly pull the cartridge out while the console is still on, and find out, right? Part of NES, right? I have inserted the new cartridge, and hopefully it all works. It worked. Alright. 80% is a go. I need to quickly explain this because I didn't earlier, and this first part is the same as what you saw earlier. This is a flashcard I use an Infinite NES Live support, graciously donated by those folks at A&L. Thank you so much for that years ago. We used the flashcard. Oh, that is a decent. Alright, that can happen. That can happen. Don't worry, don't panic. I'm a professional. Basically, when I am hot swapping the cartridge, it is possible things to go wrong if I inserted it just the wrong angle, for instance. So, we gotta be kind of careful with that. Let me reset this, and hopefully it just goes. Alright, that's what we get. Round 2. The reason we have to do this is because the game is rather bizarre and reads from uninitialized memory. And if you don't have a clear state of RAM that it's expecting, you end up with that, basically. This did not have happened twice in a row. No, this is the thing. Alright, I mean, third time's probability. It will happen eventually. It is a 1 in 4 chance. Alright, we'll start with the RAM clear, pull this cartridge out, and really it's the angle that I'm putting this in, it's really, it's not exact science. When I press enter on this, oh, now we're getting an even different failure. Welcome to the wonderful world of console verification. Sometimes you just get unlucky. Alright, so really quickly, I did not mean to turn it off. This part, if there's the RAM, the memory on the console, this is, oh, that's another failure mechanism. You're getting every possible thing that could go wrong. That time, I tripped the reset wire. Right? And this is the kind of thing you don't want to have happen. Okay, now I went to a black screen. I'm back. See what it does. Alright, hopefully. Maybe. Oh, maybe. Wow, that was the bad luck. We usually have about a 1 in 4 chance of it going sideways. So
I'll say when I get to the Peninsula Power via tent.
What I would describe as marathon luck. Alright, Samus, get through this section. You can do it. Oh! Oh my gosh!
getting so many in a row, huh? Yeah, no, it would not have mattered, trust me. It would not have gone better. Alrighty, we are just gonna do this one more time.
Thank you, production, for resetting the timer every single time.
Every single time. Alright.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, I believe you can fly.
You should be able to fight it, actually.
Probably okay for the remainder of it. It's kind of amazing how bad my luck has been. We did this how many times in rehearsal and did not see it go that badly? I think we're good here.
Yeah, alright.
Yeah, there we go.
Alright, so you're gonna notice an immediate route deviation here. We're gonna go straight to crate flare here. All we flash same showing off. All we need is the Morphball. Normally you need missiles, Morphball bombs, everything in your arsenal to get down here.
And these guys are genuinely not trapped.
So we're gonna go straight to the flare, and we're gonna actually take a really cool route all the way to Crate's room. And we're gonna actually get there without a single missile pack. And for those who know the map, you actually need missiles to enter Crate's room. That is pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a series of door wraps here, and a couple of jumps, unforced jumps, and we're going to wrap around here. And we're gonna come out the right side of the room here.
I can live with this. Just need to make sure, just hope they don't go first and stuff.
Same thing here, but we're gonna do a slight different amount of jumps, like unforced and things like that, to get us another wrap, and we are going to go straight through.
I didn't expect Yoser to go first.
Here. That's gonna bring us straight to Crate, which we skip the missile students. Yes. So right here, we're just gonna stun lock Crate, yeah, we're just gonna do that and grab 75 missiles from Crate.
That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Good job.
There.
80% strat for that is basically like, because we cannot time those mashes, those are all frame perfect mashes, is basically we have to like untap, come out of like, you're basically coming out of morph, and you're drawing 4 shots in the Crate, each one, and you have to basically have that e-tank that's in the lava pit there in order to tank each.
I want to try getting to level 15.
Whatever you want.
That's the grinding goal.
So now we're just gonna
At level 15, you literally won't need to do any more grinding for a good long while.
And that's going to be
Why?
the item that we're going to grab in this entire room.
But no, you'll see the pattern of enemies as we went through that route has changed every time we've done it, and the one thing that's really interesting about this is, while we can influence what random number generator does, we don't necessarily have complete control over this. We sometimes just have to deal with, maybe we don't have the ability, perhaps, to get the exact right outcome we want in how the room places enemies. And they're all random here,
Here we go.
even the height of the enemy's jumps are randomly connected to this game.
One thing I do know about, like, from a technical standpoint, when you're moving vertical in a room, whichever, like those little, the enemies, they're called rippers, the ones that just kind of like move backwards and forwards and they bounce off the walls, whenever you fire at them, it just makes a little sound. Oh yeah. Whichever direction that
Maybe I can try paralysis.
they go off screen, the next one that spawns in that same, like, area, is going to be facing in that same direction. So you'll see a lot of the runners actually manipulate when they exit the screen to get so they'll manipulate like where they exit that, like that portion of the screen to get those rippers to spawn.
Booyah.
Facing in a specific direction so they can make jumps without any issues from taking any kind of damage.
Yeah, the zombies and trolls are way more worth
So we're
it.
gonna come here, grab the ice beam. This is going to be the final item of the run. And you might be wondering,
It'll only get easier if we go up in level.
how are we gonna get the
Uh-oh.
Notorian without Morphball bombs, both boss kills, things like that, and no energy. Oh, listen to this section.
You got that, didn't you?
Yeah.
That is
I guess we're gonna have some door orbs.
Of course.
no actual door. I don't think so. No, I don't.
Whatever, it's not like shields are...
Yeah. It's very interesting.
an issue. I can actually just use my first level spells.
don't bring them.
Oh yeah, of course we have got some awesome donations. We
That's
have
enough.
$50 from Sigma Beta that says great organization with an important mission.
Here we
Thanks
go.
for supporting them. Thank you so much for that awesome donation. We also have $5 from Spriggs that says, why not? Well, I think so too, why not? And then we also have $50 from Princess Peach that says, yay, Taskbot!
Aw, thank you, Princess.
Ouch.
Probably a couple more, or maybe like one or two more.
Okay, no problem. We have a $75 donation from Anonymous. No comment was provided. We also have a $50 donation from Draco Vanessa.
The burst should take care of them.
There, but thank you so much for the $50 towards
One of them lived, but Tanglevine should finish it off.
We're actually drawing this enemy in. We're actually going to use this enemy to our advantage to manipulate it into a pattern to allow us to morph jump out of there, clip through the floor, and get tutorial. I'll clap for it.
There you go. Teos Road, the finishing blow.
One
Surprisingly.
thing, every enemy in Torian does 30 damage. So at any point in this entire run, we are one shot. And also,
Hey, Teos Road leveled up.
we have a maximum capacity.
That means everyone got to level up. Lovely.
The entirety of Mother Radiant's Road requires 73.
Now we run back.
So keep your eye on that missile count, because it's interesting.
Not worth it.
It's very great.
Of course.
It is. This game was terrifying.
I always talk to people about potential game security. Like, this probably would have been one that I, like, had nightmares after playing this area.
Well, as we're coming to the end of this run, a couple of quick things. First of all, thank you so much to all of the folks that made this possible. This particular tool system run, the 80% was the Advanced Company was there. This was also done a couple of years ago. There are some possible improvements to this system as well. Anyone can get involved. So I don't know if I'm going to test you this story if you want to work on improvements. Alright, what's going on here?
A lot. So basically, like I said, 73 missiles completely clear this entire room. With as long as you don't miss. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna manipulate these spawns here. And just kind of take out Mother Brain. And once Mother Brain is dying, you no longer take damage. You're safe. You just take damage from that.
I'm gonna select save slot 1.
Well, we have reached the end of the task block for GT Express 2023 here at TwitchCon 2023. This is all benefiting Able Gamers. Thank you so much for all of your donations, making that 80% run possible. Head on over to discord.gg/taskbot to get involved with taskbot's company.
My goodness.
And that is the end of our time. I would like to thank Prosoja.
Kindly leave.
Ice Blue, who I called Ice Beam earlier because I've been playing too much Metroid. I am Dwango Ace signing off. Thank you so much to everyone. Have a wonderful stream.
Money. That's what you guys are. Ooh, look at this guy. Let's try muddling in. launching himself. Now the real fun starts. Hell yeah. One of them lived. Whatever.
Leads out to the ocean where our monument was, and from here we should be able to spot what will become our Guardian farm. Give or take the zombie piglins that are in the way, and yeah, there we go. The monument is over here. We've raided this in the past, so we should no longer have to contend with any Elder Guardians or anything inside of here, meaning that we can set this whole thing up to be a farm without worrying too much about mining fatigue, although we do still have to worry about the other Guardians, apparently. And I didn't exactly come prepared with any water-breathing potions, but that's not the point of this segment of the video. The point is to demonstrate that the Guardians that spawn around here only spawn in a very specific area. In fact, they are limited in their spawning to anywhere above the base of the monument. You'll find them swimming around in open water around the outside, but in terms of where they actually generate, this layer of prismarine at the bottom of the ocean monument, the one that the supporting pillars of prismarine brick are holding up, that is effectively the threshold for where the Guardians will begin to spawn. You'll notice that there aren't even that many underneath this area. Most of them have just swum down from where the entrance is. You don't find them spawning in this area, you only find them drifting down here by chance. And so anywhere from the base of the monument on upwards is the spawning ground for Guardians. We're going to create an area in here in which the Guardians will spawn, be driven into a chamber where we can kill them easily, or they can die of their own accord, and they will drop prismarine shards and prismarine crystals, which we can use to create every single prismarine block in the current palette. In the case of dark prismarine, we'll still need to get hold of some squid ink to craft this in large quantities, but that's another farm for another time. And of course, there are several schools of thought when it comes to designing a Guardian farm out of an ocean monument. There are several ways of doing it, some of which are more complex and time-consuming than others. And the farm we're going to be committing to is fairly time-consuming to create, but we'll leave this as both a really effective way to get hold of prismarine and a pretty awesome landmark for our world. Basically, my philosophy with Guardian farms is if you're going to make them, you want to make them look impressive, and so we're going to head back over there with a couple of basic materials just to explain a couple of concepts we'll be working with here, and then we're going to undertake a pretty large project of draining a section of ocean. I'm also going to dip back into here and grab the conduits that we last used when we were draining the area that contained our trail ruins. Now over here in the center of this monument is a 2x2 area, which we're going to build up from like so to create a platform where we can hopefully hide from all of these Guardians before they kill me. This is where something like an invisibility potion might come in really helpful. But honestly, if you build this platform up enough and create an area where you can kind of cut off line of sight with the rest of the Guardians, then they won't bother you for a little bit at least. At all times when we're making this farm, we need to remember that the key to avoiding being attacked by Guardians is to put a block between you and them, breaking the line of sight for their laser attack and forcing them to start it again. So once we're standing in a 2x2 area like this with walls all around us, most of the time you should simply be able to crouch, and that will cut off the Guardian's line of sight to you. It is rare that one of them will be able to aim a laser at you above these walls. Now the bottom layer, the base layer of the ocean monument structure, is 58 by 58 blocks, and that is the case regardless of the ocean monument that you've raided. They're all the same base size, it's only the rooms inside that change shape a little bit. So we're going to grab, since we've got a 2x2 in here already, we're going to grab 27 blocks, and we're going to bridge out to the edges of the square where the ocean monument has its boundary. And since we've got Swift Sneak, we can do this pretty quickly, so hopefully we shouldn't get lasered by too many Guardians in the process. And this should give you roughly the dimensions of the area in which Guardians will spawn, give or take. In my case, I'm actually going to extend these arms outwards a little bit further and begin a circle that's going to stretch all the way around the outside of this, making sure that the corners of the monument are included inside the perimeter of the circle. And we're going to create these perimeter walls all the way around the outside, which will block any water from coming in and then drain the center of it, so what's left is the ocean monument itself. From there, we're going to take advantage of soul sand mechanics, and soul sand is kind of the inverse of a magma block. If you've ever run into magma blocks while you've been exploring the ocean and noticed them dragging you downwards, soul sand is the opposite, creating a column of bubbles that propels entities upwards. This is going to require us to deconstruct a lot of the monument here. We need to demolish large sections of it if we're going to use the base of the monument as the area for our soul sand, and it makes sense to do that because that will provide us with the largest water area in which Guardians can spawn, and so they'll spawn at a pretty decent rate. Although there are some things that can help us do that before we even drain the monument. If we break on through to the central room of the monument here, take care of any Guardians that have managed to spawn inside, and set up our conduit, we can set up an area in which we'll be able to have that conduit power effect to help us breathe underwater and mine blocks quickly. Using the natural blocks of the ocean monument, we're actually able to set up the rings of the conduit without worrying too much about bringing too many additional blocks with us, and there we go, that should be the full conduit power in effect. But in this case, I think I'm simply going to leave it here as an aid to visibility and water breathing while we work on the remainder of this project. We're going to dig our way out of the monument, we're going to return to the surface, and we're going to plot out an area that we're going to drain. One way you can make it easier on yourself plotting out larger structures like this, especially if you're trying to draw a circle around a square, is by using graphics tools. In this case, I'm using Photoshop. I'm just going to drag out a square here. The square needs to be 58 by 58 pixels, since that is the shape of the base of our ocean monument. We'll pop that in the center there, and then we can simply switch to a circle drawing tool to draw a circle around the outside. We'll center that on the canvas as well. We'll simply drag it until the corners of the square disappear. We can take a look at those two overlapped like that, and the corners of the square are just touching the corners of the circle here. And by taking a look at the dimensions, what we've got here is a circle with a width and height of 84 pixels. So it's got an 84 pixel diameter. We can take that information and plug it into the Plots ellipse generator. Plots.co.uk is a fantastic tool for modeling a variety of different shapes in Minecraft, and in this case we have simple sliders that we can drag out to that 84 by 84 width and depth. And that is the circle that we are going to be drawing around our ocean monument in the survival guide world. The number up here in the top right will tell you how many blocks you need to create this circle, and you can switch between 2D and 3D modes, where the 2D mode will actually give you a counting guide for how many blocks you need to place around each side of the circle. And of course, since this is an 84 by 84 circle, we need to expand those stone arms that we've already built over the top of our ocean monument to be 42 blocks long. That way they'll reach out all the way to the area where we're going to be building the circle around the outside, and that will make it a lot easier to measure. This time around though, I'm going to minimize my harassment by Guardians by brewing up a few invisibility potions. Invisibility potions are created by brewing a night vision potion using a golden carrot and then inverting it using a fermented spider eye. From there we can use redstone dust to increase the duration of these potions, so they give us 8 minutes of invisibility, and that should give us plenty of time to work. Invisibility potions are actually at their best if you remove your armor. Mobs will be able to detect you a little easier if you're still wearing something that's visible. And the invisibility potion isn't perfect, because mobs within a certain range will still be able to detect you. However, since Guardians prefer to attack from range, they will typically swim away, at which point they'll lose interest in attacking the player because the player is invisible at that range. And that means we can take down our central safety barrier and continue extending these arms out to a distance of 42 blocks. And then building out from the very edges of these arms, we can start counting the perimeter of our circle. When you're counting these out, I do recommend using a different block as a temporary block if you need to place blocks on the diagonal like this, just so you don't end up placing stone here and counting
the farming there was pretty exploitable.
Thankfully, with
I've never seen anyone talk about it,
I've
but
been able
it
to
is a
extend
great
those
way
arms
to earn
and get
money.
1/4 of the circle drawn.
I think RPG developers should be more willing to
always the nerve-wracking thing
hide
about building these
secret
circles. But I'm going to chuck
and
another
exploitable
invisibility
ways.
potion, and we'll get the other 3 quadrants all drawn out. In fact, this circle is large
grind
enough that I
out
haven't even needed to
for
drink another
experience and
invisibility
stuff.
potion to build the second quarter because the Guardians are also distracted by
The
other stuff in
mistakes
the
in
area.
Final
I
Fantasy
can
and
probably just chuck
this
my
game are
armor
anything
back
to
on
go by.
and
People
not worry
will
about
love
the
it
invisibility
and
potions at
will
all. And
use
just
it,
like
and
that,
they
our
will find it
circle
fun.
around the outside of this ocean monument
I
is
mean,
complete, and it's always
this
really
gay
cool seeing big
XP
structural
gaming
things like
glitch
this built in Minecraft. So
they
seeing a giant
maintained
circle laid out over
even
the ocean
after they learned about it
always
as
feels
early
exciting
as
to me. I'm going to go
the
around
very
the
first
circumference
Biscaya game
and
because
take out the
people
prismarine
found
bricks
it
that I
fun.
was using as temporary blocks just so they
So
don't
they've
confuse me a bit
intentionally
later.
kept the
And what we're
glitch.
left with is this ring of stone that represents the area
Even
we're
when
going
they
to
no
completely
longer have a
drain
reason to
of
keep
water.
it.
The next step is likely to require a couple of invisibility potions as well, because in order to effectively drain this area, we need to cut it off from the rest of the ocean, which means, yes, placing blocks underneath this ring of stone all the way down to the ocean floor. And naturally, to complicate this project even further, I want to do this in style. So our next port of call is going to be a desert where we need to pick up a truckload of sand.
When the Sand Show people roam the galaxy,
Just big blocks of words. Everyone loves
Give
talking heads.
us
Chunks
zombies.
of unwieldy dialogue.
Fuck.
Endless scenes of people just talking
Run.
will never get old or stale or just bore me to the point of tears. Should I break up the
I
dialogue?
believe
a bit with
those are
gestures,
supposed to be
facial
called
expressions,
ogres.
actions, or just about anything,
They changed
really?
it.
Even
They
if
changed
you
the
just
fighter
paragraphs of
class to
like
be
a
called
wall?
warrior
No,
as well
just
in
talking heads
this
freaking ever. Of
fan-made
course, the
project.
characters are
I
just
don't know
standing
why.
around and talking. Everyone knows that scenes can only do one thing at a time. Like a scene dedicated to exposition cannot also have characterization at the same time. Have a tense argument about a world-building detail that highlights not only a sharp difference between characters informed by their backstory and rival economic and social groups, but also that provides the audience key insight into the existing hierarchies within the world? No way! Write a scene with a mix of world-building, characterization, plot advancement, or exposition? Impossible. It's too hard, I say, even as amateur fanfic writers pull it off. I'll instead just stick to a plain old info-dumping scene to handle my exposition while I put everyone's character on hold. Never have scenes pull double or even triple duty. Good writing doesn't let the writing multitask, and instead, the writer should reduce scenes to a singular aspect, no matter how boring it makes the story. I refuse to learn how to write a scene that does more than one thing at a time, nor am I willing to fix this issue during the revision process. See, from my perspective, I don't need to bother to multi-layer my scenes. Speaking of perspective, point of view can be easily ignored when writing a scene. Now, point of view is another of those larger topics I plan to cover sometime in the future. For the purposes of scene writing, though, it's important to remember that point of view is more like a suggestion.
Jesus Christ,
Feel
that
free to
scared
throw
me.
out an
Lizard just
entire
popped
tightly
up.
written first-person narrative to describe a scene subtly from third
IRL
person.
for me.
Or start head-jumping between character POVs in the middle of a scene, no matter how jarring it is to read. The criteria for breaking POV in a scene should basically come down to I feel like it. Consistency first. Unless it contradicts my creative whims while also not providing any creative payoff. What about pacing in a scene? Yeah, what about it? Pacing can be safely ignored, especially during the revision process. Why should I have to worry about the scene dragging too long? All of my scenes are perfectly paced even if they don't flow naturally while reading them. Now, in my experience,
I
slow
do way
pacing
too
tends
much
to happen
revisions,
more than
honestly.
pacing that's too fast. Slow pacing is also easier to fix, since the writer usually can just make a few snips here and there that can improve and smooth the scene's natural flow from one point to the next. Finding
how
pacing
bad
that
can one
flows is more art than
T-Rex
science,
be?
and can be difficult to diagnose, especially since critique
I'm
groups
sending
tend to
you back to the
misattribute a
Ice
lot of other
Ages,
problems
bitch.
as pacing problems. When a beta reader says this scene drags, it could be that the scene just goes on too long, but it could also mean that the conflict in the scene isn't engaging, or the characterization isn't firing on all cylinders, or a host of other problems that can make readers disengage. How to tell what the real problem is? Don't. Instead, just blame the beta reader for reading it wrong and get into a huge argument. That's way more productive than just fixing the stupid scene. Similar things could be said about transitioning between scenes. Basically, a writer doesn't need to worry about that at all. This is very noticeable in older books before we got all fancy and scene transitions became the norm. But I intend to buck newer trends of smooth endings and return to the days that a writer could simply end a scene on a whim. Have audience expectations shifted to expect more smooth transitions between scenes? No, it's the audience who's in the wrong. Besides, scene transitions are more art than science again.
The scene either ends on something punchy or witty that brings the scene to a close. This leaves the audience with a small, pithy line that adds levity while closing out the scene in a way that feels natural. There is also ending on something that creates a new situation for the next scene, like a character barging in and exclaiming that something has happened. This ends the scene by shifting focus away from the previous conflict and begins setting up the very next conflict or situation the characters have to deal with. Another way to end a scene is on something ominous and dark that foreshadows a future conflict much further down the road. The main thing is to focus on having a final line that feels like an endpoint. But rather than focusing on something that feels like a natural endpoint, I think instead I'll just end the scene when I get bored with it. Then I'll just stumble into the next scene without preamble. So I've dismissed needing to master point of view, pacing, and transitions. That means I will still consider tone, right? Right?
Can I just say, I find it funny that lightning is shortened as lit.
The last scene featured an orphan
in
burned
Final
to death
Fantasy.
seconds before he got adopted by
The NES
family that were
versions, at
crushed
least,
trying to
they don't
rescue
need the
him.
shorter
Clearly,
anymore.
the next scene should be a
With
lighthearted
modern
romp with no
technology
space in
and
between for the
more
audience to
modern
emotionally
revisions.
process the previous scene.
Ports
When the
of
story
Final
has an
Fantasy.
emotional high point, it can often take the audience a bit
Stop
to process said emotions
You
and allow
guys.
for a scene's tone to smoothly transition from light to heavy. See, this isn't a problem because a good writer doesn't ever bother to elicit any emotional reaction from the audience at all. Good writing only leaves the audience in a boredom-induced stupor, or a sense of vague jealousy directed at the power fantasy wish fulfillment self-insert main character. This makes trying to balance between serious and light tones largely a wasted effort. This frees the writing from having to space out more serious scenes as to not overwhelm the audience with endless darkness. This is really hard to do while also sprinkling in lighter scenes to balance out the mood somewhat. Good thing I need to work on that. Can a writer just move a scene? No, never, not under any circumstances. Now, sometimes the plot demands certain things happen at certain times. This also means that a writer should be equally inflexible with all scenes as a result, and never should they consider moving scenes around to account for things like tone, pacing, or story flow. What if a writer has mastered tone, pacing, point of view, and transitions, but still feels like a scene isn't working? Well, then the scene may have a problem with its conflicts. Conflict is one of the main drivers of storytelling. That's why writers go on and on about it. I often find that conflict issues within a scene tend to vary based on writer skill level, which are as follows. No conflict. The best kind
Here
of conflict.
we go.
This is what I see most commonly in amateur fiction. Many new writers often don't know that conflict is often what makes character interactions interesting. These new writers tend to just forget to put any kind of conflict in their stories, which is good. We aren't here for conflict. We're here to watch a character just get everything they want without having to raise a finger. This no-effort, all-reward approach is the best way to write. Forced conflict. Intermediate writers tend to understand that fiction sometimes needs conflict, but they are not always good at writing it, so their solution is to force it into a scene. This never leads to issues like characters fighting over nothing, or more often when the audience sees through the conflict as a transparent ploy by the writer to pad out the scene. How can this be fixed? By ignoring it and hope it goes away, not by workshopping it until the conflict in the scene feels more natural. Pointless conflict. This is the bane of professional writers. It is shockingly common with big-name authors who have achieved the coveted cash cow status with their publishers. This results in the removal of the spinal columns of any editors assigned to the author. Don't want to upset the cash cow after all. These writers are still skilled though. I mean, usually. And as such are competent at writing scenes with engaging in natural feeling conflict. Said conflict though has nothing to do with the plot. It's
At one last
well-written
level.
conflict, but is largely pointless in the larger context to the story. Can this be fixed? Of course! But it won't be, because the sales figures will still be the same either way. But why doesn't the writer simply remove the scene? Because it's my darling scene! It doesn't have to tie into the main plot or fit within the context of the story, because the scene is well written. Well-written scenes don't have to justify their existence within the story. Now, people often say, murder your darlings in writing. Which is why I murder those people first before they can turn me against my precious darlings. Never remove a scene that adds nothing to the story. Protect your precious darlings no matter the cost. Even if, 1. No characters develop and the audience doesn't get to see the characters in a new light. 2. The plot doesn't move forward. 3. There is no exposition or world building. And or 4. Nothing changes at all. Characterization in a vacuum is good enough for me. Who cares if it spoils the pacing? I will simply ignore that literally every member of my writers group, every beta reader, and my editor all agree that the scene needs to go. I will defend my darlings to my final breath. A writer should never stop and ask, what does this scene add to the story? What is its purpose in the larger narrative? If this scene were removed, would anything of value be lost? Writers don't need to worry about such questions during the revision process, because writers shouldn't be revising anyway. All I pen to page is golden on the first try, and anyone who suggests otherwise are just haters and naysayers jealous of my immense talent and endearing collection of non-murder darlings. Remember that a good scene is written all in one go,
okay, shit,
on the
I wanted
first
to buy some
draft, not
potions.
revised into being a good scene, usually after multiple drafts. Scene writing isn't a skill honed over time and experience until it becomes more instinct than anything. This means that a writer doesn't need to keep an open mind and develop an eye for key revisions to tweak each scene for maximum performance until every scene hums along nicely and maintains a feeling of natural narrative flow. Yes, this scene doesn't add anything to the story, but the fact that it's well written is always justification enough for a scene's inclusion. A writer should never worry that just because they're unwilling to murder their darlings, that their darlings won't hesitate to murder the story. Wake up, capitalist pig. Oh hey, it's the space communist. We've been looking for you guys. Silence, bourgeoisie. Stand in awe of our leader, Comrade Prime.
I welcome you, foolish though you are, to our glorious space commune. I am Comrade Prime.
You mean we, right?
Yes, I mean we are Comrade Prime, collectivist leader of the collectivist space communist, who are very collectivist, and you have been caught trespassing.
Hear us out. As a revolutionary against the evil empire, I'm a big fan of yours. We were hoping to join forces against greed and...
Silence! As trespassers, there is only one punishment. You shall be subject to a tour. Observe the glorious motherland, where we all are rewarded, each according to their ability, each according to their needs, fully automated and luxury. A true utopia.
Wow, how does it work?
It just works. Trust me.
Greetings, my wayward space communist. Now put down your silly books on theory and listen up. What's that?
Ugh. Creed has been bugging us for months now. He's been spamming our transmission lines with his endless shilling, as if we would ever join a pathetic capitalist dog like him.
I have been very reasonable and patient, but time is almost up. This is your last chance to join up with the winning side. There's more than enough room in my camp for you, but I'm not going to leave my flank exposed. Flank?
I don't know what he's talking about either.
I think he's referring to having a strategy. Strategy? What's that?
Sounds like a capitalist thing.
Regardless, it's time to make a choice. If I don't hear back from you, then I will have you removed. The thing is, I have an edge that you do not, especially in information warfare. At first, I completely missed the Screen Actors Guild agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers over AI, the story having been buried under a deluge of 24-hour news, especially considering recent events. Thankfully, I was able to sort through the nightmare of information overload that our media-oversaturated internet inflicts on us, thanks to a special tool in my arsenal. This video's sponsor, Ground News, which lets me see the news without the tiresome partisanship that has divided our media landscape. It's a website and app developed by a former NASA engineer that utilizes a data-driven approach to the news. Every story comes with a factuality, political bias, and ownership of the reporting source, backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. Like for the coverage of the Screen Actors Guild story, Ground News shows that of the 89 sources, over half lean center, while a little over a third leans to the left and 14% lean to the right. The owners of these sources were mostly media conglomerates at 47%. We can even see the difference in headlines, with right-leaning sources focusing more on AI in their headlines. Compare and contrast related stories from different sources to see what details are highlighted or downplayed. The blind spot feed is handy as it shows what stories
They
one side of the political aisle are focusing on while the
now.
other sees fit to ignore. Having a complete understanding of what all sides are thinking is rarely a disadvantage. We must venture out of our comfort zone every so often, and even if you consider the other side your enemy, wouldn't you rather know what they are thinking? Challenge your assumptions, or risk having them used against you. To help with this, Ground News even has a new feature in its Vantage subscription plan called My News Bias. It's a handy dashboard that breaks down your news consumption habits, what topics you engage with, and how your reading habits have changed. DWA fans can go to Ground News/Terrible Writing Advice to get the best deal of the year with 40% off the Ground News Vantage subscription. You can check out the link in the description below to get unlimited access to all Ground News features for just $5 a month until November 30th.
Crazy how I'm actually just kind of beating them up normally.
Your move, but don't take long. It's winner take all, and I intend to take everything.
We are on the verge of victory. Greed is already too late. The Terrible Writing Advice expanding universe is as good as ours. We shall unveil our secret weapon.
Those sections are genuinely the best part of every TWD video, and it showcases that he really is a good writer. You know, because I think these ad plots are incredibly what's the word for it? Obtruse, expanded, complicated, something along those lines. A word similar to the word complicated. Shit. Oh, it was already muddled. That's why. They're not worth fighting, but I like the challenge. Ensemble. Oh, it's been a while. Not this time. Running low on resources. Here we go. One last fire spell. You know, with all the problems and glitches and stuff in Final Fantasy, you have to wonder what the development was like. Like, was the game even play tested? You know, because there's just so many things. Sure, there are the ones that are a little not obvious and hard to find out, like the Peninsula of Power. But then you have like half of the game just not fucking working as intended. Like the stats. Fucking magnets, how do they work?
Our next port of call is going to be a desert where we need to pick up a truckload of sand. And And so I returned from the desert with my shovel absolutely destroyed. Basically worn this down until the durability bar was no longer visible, although I could still mine about 300 blocks by my estimation, and we have 4 shulker boxes of sand. Well, 3.5 really, but we're going to put one of these through our automatic furnace. But since our furnace is relatively low on fuel, there is coal coming in behind the charcoal, but I don't believe there's a great deal of that in there. We're going to revert to using buckets of lava, which we are now farming over in the mud factory. Remember that each bucket of lava will smelt 100 blocks, so this is 200 blocks worth of smelting for each furnace right here. And with 8 furnaces, that's 1600 blocks, or about the capacity of a full shulker box. So I'm going to set all of this stuff smelting and go and repair my shovel by trading with the local villagers. And hopefully by the time all of this sand is done, we should have plenty of glass that we can work with. Actually, it turns out I miscounted. We have a 4th full shulker box of sand in the ender chest that I just put in the second row of shulker boxes, so I didn't recognize it. So we still have a bunch of sand left over, and that is going to be vital to the process of draining the monument. And a short while later, all of these furnaces should shortly be switching off, give or take the amount of fuel I've had to burn in order to smelt these last few blocks of sand, but we now have a full shulker box of material right here, and there we go, that's the last of the furnaces. So there's a little bit of glass still coming into this barrel from where we exceeded the amount of glass that we were going to fit in a single shulker box, but this shulker box we're going to take down to the storage system, and we're going to turn all of this into blue glass. We have a decent handful of blue dye in here, but of course we can turn lapis into blue dye very easily, and we've got so much of that from mining, I figure we can just make a couple of stacks of that and see how we get on. In fact, I'm not going to turn all of this into blue glass yet, because I'm not certain how much we will need to fill in the bottom half of this cylinder, but we will see how we get on when we return to the Guardian farm. And the other shulker boxes of sand I am going to leave here in the central area, because we're going to need those in the near future to help us drain out all of the water. But for the moment, we're going to head out to the perimeter of this ring, and we're going to start placing blue glass. Hopefully, the conduit power that's inside of there should give us plenty of the water-breathing effect around here, and I brought the invisibility potions back, because I have a feeling these guardians are going to be keeping a watchful eye on me as I go around here placing all of this blue glass. But we'll do this from the outside so we can minimize the possibility of that happening, and the one thing we just have to make sure of is that we've got a silk touch pickaxe on us, and that we don't end up misplacing too much of this glass with all of the kelp around. Even though it's a transparent block, glass will still block guardian lasers, so it's always worth dodging behind these blocks in case one of them starts to target us, but for the most part, this should be a relatively chill task to complete. And with all of that blue glass that I just crafted placed here, we have only covered about 1/4 of the circle. So, it's a good thing I got so much sand, isn't it? I think we're going to need to smelt one more full box, and probably one of the boxes that had maybe half of its contents in there. We've still got some glass left in this one that needs dyeing blue, but as you can see, it's barely visible under the surface of the water. Once we remove the water from this area, though, the effect will be pretty striking, because it'll look like the ocean wall simply stops there and is surrounded by this barely visible perimeter of dark blue glass. In the meantime, we're actually gathering a few drops around the center here, because guardians tend to be drawn towards light blocks, not in such a way that it makes it a super reliable method of farming them, but right here, you'll notice that the dolphin is playing with a bunch of guardian drops, which have appeared around the center here as a result of the guardians swimming in towards the sea lanterns in the middle, and then getting killed by the conduit. So that's a fun way of picking up a light amount of guardian drops while we're working on the rest of this project. But for now, back at the base, we're going to load even more lava into the auto smelter and collect some more lava from our mud factory building. Then we'll start the auto furnaces going again, smelt up a bunch more sand, and replace this barrel here with a shulker box that will collect all of the glass for us when it's ready. We'll break down some of our lapis blocks into regular lapis, and from there into blue dye, so we should have enough to dye the entire circle. And I'll bring you folks back in when we've got the rest of that glass placed, and we can talk about the next steps for preparing this farm. Okay, at last we are back here and we have all of the glass in place. This was a lot of glass. I basically used up every piece of glass that I have except for these few stacks here. 2 and a bit stacks is what I have left, and the entire thing from the surface to the ocean floor is now completely surrounded in glass, which is good because it means we can move on to the next phase of this project, which is to drain the interior section of the monument. And this is not something we will complete in today's episode, but I'm going to spend a bit of time on streams doing this week, and hopefully we should be able to get to the next phase in which we design the actual situation where the Guardians are going to be spawned and then killed in this week's episodes. But I may need to go and brew a few more invisibility potions because a lot of Guardians are spawning around here, and our next stage is going to involve coming out into the center of the monument here a little bit, because we're going to have to place a lot of sand in a grid that's going to help us break this down into manageable areas of water to absorb using sponges. We're going to grab a bunch of sand from our shulker box here, and we're going to go straight across this part of the circle where it's relatively thin, leaving maybe a 3 or 4 block area at the widest part where water is still present. And yes, this means we're going to get hit by Guardians occasionally, but we can always fire on them with a bow if we need to, as long as they are close to the surface of the water. Shouldn't be too difficult of a problem. But we'll start over here, and one thing you need to bear in mind is whether or not there is any kelp below the surface of the water, which might break the sand when the sand falls. But if the sand is able to land on a solid block, it should be able to simply stack up like this until it reaches the surface of the water, and from here we'll continue to bridge on outwards, dropping the sand in from the top as we go, so we don't have to spend the entire time submerged in water. We can hopefully avoid getting lasered by too many Guardians, and slowly but surely we can divide this area into a grid of boxes with a column of water that can easily be absorbed using some sponges. But placing this amount of sand manually takes a staggeringly long time, so there are a couple of bits and pieces that we can do to improve that. In this case, we're going to place a block of sand here. We're going to allow pistons to assist us with pushing the remaining sand in our inventory out along this line, probably removing this block here so that it doesn't get stuck on there. We're going to put a couple of blocks either side of this block here at water level so that we can place some redstone components on those. We need to make sure we have a redstone dust here and a solid block attached to the side of the piston, so the redstone power will power the piston whenever we power this block in front. And then we're going to place a repeater facing in towards the area we'll be placing the sand, and make sure that's powered from one side, and as you'll see, that ends up pushing the sand blocks off whenever we place one in front of the piston. So now by holding down right click, I can simply have the piston move the sand for me, and that allows me to stay outside of the range of any Guardians who would wander on through here. It might even be possible to place another piston on here and have that happen even faster, thanks to a reaction where this piston gets an update from the piston above it. That allows this piston to react faster, to the point where it's actually moving sand on what we can consider a zero-tick basis. And as you can imagine, that's going to immensely speed up the process of placing all of this sand. The only limitation being once the piston reaches its push limit. Once we get to 12 blocks in front of this piston, the 13th block will just cause it to jam, basically. Once again, we need to be aware of any situations in which sand would be falling on top of a kelp block, and that's potentially going to prevent it from creating a column here, but on this side of the monument at least, we seem to be free of kelp. Once this contraption has placed all the sand it can, we simply need to move it down to the end of the section we've just finished placing, and that will allow us to complete a wall of sand using this piston-assisted method, which will be much faster than placing it manually. If you don't get a zero-ticking reaction from a piston placed on that block, another thing you might want to explore is to have a dropper or a dispenser on that block to dispense sand back out, similar to how we did in the concrete maker, where it was giving us concrete powder every time the redstone mechanism went off. That would simply allow the stack of sand in your hand to refill automatically, so you won't need to go back into your inventory to grab more sand. So thanks to these little redstone contraptions, there are lots of different ways that we can make this simpler. Now that we cut off one of the edges of this circle, we're going to continue to make these walls of sand, making them in a sort of grid, so they can go horizontally this way and horizontally across that way as well. And we're aiming for boxes of water no bigger than about 3x3 or 4x4, depending on how much sand you want to place this way. I think we'll probably aim for a 4x4 grid. So our next sand placing piston pusher can go here. It looks like this one isn't getting that zero ticking reaction, so I can take that piston away, and maybe we'll replace it with the dispenser like I mentioned before. We'll throw a few stacks of sand in here. I'll keep one in my hand, and I think I should probably go and brew some more invisibility potions if I don't want this kind of Guardian attention. But standing here will allow me to refill the stack of sand that's in my hand like so, and we can continue a line of sand all the way across the top of the ocean monument. But this is going to take a lot more placing and a lot more sand by the looks of things, because I've only got a couple of shulker boxes left with any sand in them after having turned a bunch of it into glass. So we're going to go away and get some more sand. I'll place a bunch more of this on a live stream, and when we come back, we should hopefully have a decent grid of water boxes arranged over the top of this ocean monument. Hey folks, welcome back. So I have now put about 9 or 10 shulker boxes of sand into cutting up this monument into bite-sized chunks, and as you can see, we are just over a third of the way done with the sand grid. But this is the point at which, having used this much sand, I am fairly determined to drain what I have, recover all of the sand, and hopefully create the rest of the grid using the sand that's already covering this half. And for that, I brought a bunch of sponges just so we can recap how to use sponges in a situation like this. Basically, all we're going to do is dive down below the surface by 1 or 2 blocks and place a sponge, and that should dry out the majority of the water in that area. Of course, it's going to dry out slightly weirdly because the sponge isn't always going to recover exactly the same amount of water around it, so on occasion we might have to place a couple of sponges here and there just to make sure that they dry out the water in a slightly better pattern. But at the bottom here, all of the kelp's going to pop off because it no longer has any water to grow in, and we can simply... What the heck is happening with this cod? This cod is attached to the sponge above it. Well, not anymore, unfortunately. Well, this is the point at which I'm going to bring out the hoe once again, because this is the most effective tool for dealing with sponges. You should just be able to instantly mine those off the wall. And you'll probably find that these outer sections are the easiest to dry out, not just because they aren't a full square, so you don't have to deal with as many water blocks, but also from the fact that you won't get guardians outside here since they aren't really in the area of the monument itself. Obviously, once you get further in, each of these individual squares might have a guardian or two spawning in it that you'll need to take care of. But aside from that, it should be a fairly straightforward process drying out all of these boxes, because once you confirm that all of the water is cleared out from each of these areas, all you really need to do is come on down here, break the final block of sand and add a torch underneath, and then all of the sand will fall and break on the torch, returning all the sand to your inventory and leaving you with a nice dry open space. And that's how we're going to have enough sand to do the other half of this once we're done drying out this half. And this is where we're going to leave the episode, because I just have a lot of work to do here. We're going to clear the entire thing out. Now that you know the theory, you know it is possible yourself, but it's going to take a fair amount of time in order to do all of this. So I'm going to come back in the next episode and we're going to discuss what we do with the monument once it is all clear and drained. But you might notice in the meantime that my armor is looking a little different, and that's an unfortunate tale that comes from the live stream on which I did a lot of this sand placing work. Unfortunately, at one point during the stream, I put my shulker box down here on the side of the tank, just to get some invisibility potions or something, just to make sure I was out of guardian line of sight while I refreshed my gear. And I had put my armor in there, my full set of netherite armor. I still had my elytra on me, but the rest of it, because I was using invisibility potions, was better left somewhere else, and I didn't want to have it gumming up my inventory when I needed to place so many stacks of sand. Unfortunately, at one point I placed a shulker box against the edge of the tank like this, and I broke it in order to collect it, but something about the water physics carried it away in an unpredictable direction, and at the time I just didn't notice that shulker box floating away in a weird direction, thought I had collected it from my inventory, and I had block sounds and stuff turned down because of all of the piston noise, and unfortunately the box that had all of my armor in it floated away and must have despawned. I only noticed it by the time my invisibility potion was about to run out, and that meant 8 minutes had passed, meaning that 5-minute despawn timer was up. So on the stream we commiserated, and I decided to use some of the backup equipment that I have from all of these Ancient City and End City raids to make myself a new set of netherite armor. So the enchantments on this are going to look a little bit different, and I don't have any armor trim on it anymore, so I'm going to have to work on getting the armor trims back, which means I need to go diamond mining to replace some of those smithy templates. But I managed to get a Swift Sneak book, obviously got plenty of those from the Ancient City, so that's back on my leggings. I don't have feather falling on my boots, but the rest of these boots are looking pretty good. I had 2 pairs with the 4 different enchantments that you see here that I could just combine, and the helmet I turned into netherite and enchanted it straight away from that, and I got myself fire protection this time instead of regular protection, but I think we had blast protection on the boots, so it all sort of evens out. Anyway, that's another lesson I have learned from this, is not to leave shulker boxes floating in the water when you're working on a project like this, and hopefully that warning prevents some of you folks from losing any of your equipment as well. But that is going to be it from me for this episode. I hope you're looking forward to the next episode in which we're going to do some more with this ocean monument, but for now, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixelriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.
That's pathetic. Should use the heal first. Whatever. Alright, let's do this.
Next up we got Auto Machine, a pretty short stage, but this shows off the additional usage of the recoil rod. We're going to push blocks onto switches.
Now, to start here, we got some hidden platforms behind the trees. You can burn the leaves to see where they are, but if you know where they are, then there's really no reason to do that. So.
Okay. Oh, this is even worse than last time.
And of course, the danger with these sections here is if you're not fast enough, they'll crush you, but for the most part, it's pretty well routed out, so it's not too big of a concern anymore.
Yeah, just don't go too fast. You'll be okay. Before the boss here, you actually see him switch to Buster and to Light Chip. Buster is actually pretty useful on Haunting Machine because you can sort of buffer a charge to hit him. Haunting Machine has a really annoying pattern where he likes to dash around and be invincible, so any damage you can get while he's not dashing is really good.
Alright, close enough.
I'll take it.
Do I have time for a longer donation here?
Sure, hell yeah.
Alright, well we have $5 from Irregular Ginny. Hey everyone, great job so far. Great to finally see 0-3 at a marathon, as it is my favorite Zero game in the series. And here is a message for a Jarmar if Proto can read this. Full disclosure, my experience with Swedish is counting to 12 and parroting the Stockholm subway, but here goes. Lycka till mannen, ser fram emot en fantastisk speedrun av dig för det vet hur man levererar en bra run. Hoppas de andra svenskarna dyker upp snart med för att repa serie. If you got that, Proto, I'll donate another 5 during the MMX race. Good luck, everyone, and maybe I will catch some of you at ESA Winter or Summer, or next AGDQ. Love, Ginny. Donation goes to Rebel Dragon's Choice. Gotta rep the Kingdom Hearts community as well. Hope that was good enough.
Sure, I understood that.
Yeah, pretty good.
And actually, this part here, it's showing off Blizzax.
Yeah, both actually. Yeah, Blizzax is the sort of the Buster Icicle attack. And Haunting Machines is the up slash, which is pretty much a bread and butter combo. It's triple slash up and then down.
Additionally, I guess ideally for like a casual play, you would use the light body chip to go through this stage. That's the green one, and that will pretty much negate all movement impairment by these quicksand hits. But ice is useful against not only the mini boss but also Anubis as well. So we go ahead and swap to ice early on in the stage to get rid of a menu, and we just use terrain glitching to bypass quicksand.
You can actually one-cycle this boss before he even goes into the sand, but it's incredibly difficult to do. The ice is pretty awkward to combo with since you sort of need to string sabers in between the ice hits. That was solid. Yeah, 2 cycles fine.
Your blindness could do anything against.
Coming up next, we have Kabietsu stage, which is arguably one of the, if not the hardest stage in the game. Just typical spikes everywhere level. Lots of moving platforms, things like that to navigate. So it'll be interesting. Damage boost coming up here so you can skate along the spikes.
Yeah, the gimmick of this stage is that there's like these laser security systems that spawn these spiky balls that come at you. They do a lot of damage, but they're not too threatening. Consider they die in one jump slash, so you kind of just slash your way through them. This next section is really cool. There's a lot of cool pogos here.
No, that looks like a diamond sword. Almost sort of looks like a diamond sword from Minecraft LOL. Although this game came before Minecraft.
I'm getting nervous. Alright, nice. So, this boss here he has a really, really annoying attack that he will always do whenever he hits a certain health threshold, which he'll try to heal his entire health bar back, but you have a couple of frames to interrupt it, so this combo here is going to be structured around trying to interrupt his heal. Nice, got it. Yeah, it works. Yeah. It's easiest to do with the 1000 slash, but you can do it with the saber smash too.
That was good, yeah.
Who's next?
Who's next?
Oh yeah, that's right. It's the best boss in the game, Glacier Lecac Tank. The official mascot of Z3 and the Z3 speedrunning community. Everyone's favorite. And there he is.
A very relevant $50 from Currybon.
Oh, hell yeah.
Currybon here, along with everyone in the Zero speedrun community, wishing a Jarmar luck on the run. Shoutouts to Rename and Orso with the couch commentary. Cac Tank hype!
It's a pretty cool stage in general. A lot of quick movement, dashing through. You're going to see him hitching a ride on some of these snowboards coming up. And there's an important chip coming up as well.
Yeah, he's going to be grabbing I just got in this box, which is going to give him a quick charge head chip. It does stack with Flockle in some sort of a weird way, but you'll be seeing him equip it later on. We'll talk more about it there.
Yeah. Here he goes, hitching a ride with Cac Tank Jr.
One really nice part about this stage is that the sleds make it so that there's a lot of enemies in your way that'll die pretty quickly if you're on the front of the sled. So if your score is a little low here, you can pick up some pretty free points here.
So you can get some constitution.
Yeah.
And every time I rewind time, it always is way worse.
And a little lore on Cac Tank here before we get to him. You'll notice he's a uniquely shaped boss, and that's because his purpose, aside from being a judge, is to store water in his body there and bring it to remote areas that need it. But previously he was a judge that was pretty fair and had nice rulings on people. But when Dr. Whale took him over, He started pretty much giving everybody death sentences, so we're gonna try to issue him a death sentence right here.
Poor Cactang.
He'll be back, don't worry. Yeah, so at the very end of that fight, renamed the menu, a Jarmar menu, and he equipped the light body and the quick foot chip. Is that what it's called?
Quick foot, yeah.
That's going to be useful in the next stage. Mostly what that's for is you can cancel the triple slash into the up slash directly without having to wait the animation out. And that's going to be really nice for the mid-boss in the next stage.
And these stages here, Box Stars, in my opinion, starts really the hard gauntlet of this game. The rest of these stages are pretty long and have either a lot of mid-bosses or just like convoluted mid-bosses. And the bosses themselves are pretty annoying. And then of course you have the final stages after that, so it's a tricky run to begin with, but it really sort of amps up at this stage.
Yeah, there's some brand new strats in this stage that you'll be seeing. That Buster skill that Adarmar is using is Copy X's called Reflect Laser, and Adarmar actually just came up with some new strats like a week or two ago in these button rooms to get some extra hits with the Reflect Laser.
There is.
He also equipped a second Cyber Elf there. That second elf is a bird elf. What it's used for is if you fall into a pit, it'll save you. That's handy in a couple spots, I guess, in case of pits, but mainly the final boss it's going to be useful for. We equip it here because it affects the Box Star boss's pattern.
Another very, very tight curve.
Oh, come on. He just got up.
The legendary 3 seconds.
So this next section is pretty sweet. The intended strat here is to ride these metal girders through, sort of dodge the enemies, but it's pretty slow. Take some damage boost on these bombs.
I got 2 socks.
Pretty tight, yeah, just using the iframe to skate over the spikes.
There, nice.
And then not much of the stage left, but you're gonna see on this next vertical section another abuse of iframes to just scale up a spiked wall, save some time there too.
Okay, they were actually pretty easy.
So yeah, like I mentioned, the 2 elf Foxstar pattern is way better than the 1 elf. There's one attack you really want to avoid, where Foxstar will kind of like go invincible and break apart into this big fire pattern. Thankfully, the 2 elf pattern is pretty significantly better.
Yeah, pretty much just do it.
I wish I could just find a house inside a box.
Then we got Calvarian coming up next. Another very long stage. There's going to be a lot of equipment changing at the beginning too.
Yeah, so at the start here, you're going to see him. He's going to equip the Quick Charge headpiece, which will only stack with Cloggle if you're on neutral body, so he's going to switch to that as well. And he's also going to equip the double jump foot chip that he picked up from Foxstar. That saves, oh my gosh, so much time throughout the run. You'll see him use it pretty much everywhere.
I want to shout out a $200 donation from Mr. Wutsky, donating again this time from a new school. The students here at McGrath Elementary put together our spare quarters to see these games get destroyed. Let's beat cancer.
Okay, this section here is the elevator section. almost died there. Thank goodness for that bird elf. Yeah, that's an example of that, where the bird elf will just pull you out of the pit whenever you fall into it.
Great.
But this elevator section here, the enemies do fall in a regular pattern, so that's why Charmer is able to jump up and pretty much hit them before they even hop on the screen. And an issue with this section is since there's so much movement going on in the background and enemies exploding and things dropping, you may see in the next section there's actually lag that'll build up. Gotta try to with that.
This mid boss here is pretty annoying. He has 96 HP, so it takes double damage when he's on his side, so that's why I see him push him over. But he really can't be manipulated, so you kind of just have to take whatever he gives you.
One quick elevator section here. Not more enemies though.
And here comes the lag.
You can sort of aid that by picking up the things that drops, but I mean, in some situations it's not worth it to go out of your way to pick it up. Let's take it, yeah. We got another short section here before Calvarian, and Calvarian is a pretty unique boss. He doesn't really work like some of the other bosses in the game.
Yeah, he's made up of 3 dogs, so he has 3 health bars, 1 for each dog. And he also is very big and has a very small hitbox. It's pretty much just his head. So you'll see a Jarmar be taking a lot of damage boost here to get inside him and get access to his head.
It's pretty much just a slugfest. You want to be close to him taking damage and just try to deal more damage to him. Like he did. Good stuff.
$25 from Zach K. Mega Man 03 is my favorite game of all time, so I'm real hyped for this run. Took a week off work, so I wouldn't miss anything this year, and it's been well worth it so far.
Okay, and coming up next is Volteal, and there's actually a piece of tech that got outworked by Jarmar recently. Pretty big breakthrough for this stage, and I may mess it up, so if I'm saying something wrong, be sure to interrupt me here, but see, the stage itself is pretty standard. It's going to try to go through it as fast as possible. But there's a section coming up where there's 8 randomized doors that there's 4 of them that you want to go into. And for a long time, it was pretty much just chalked up to luck. You just went through every door and just tried to get lucky that you got the doors you needed where they were. But Jarmar was able to find out, based on a light that's outside and where it flickers, if you enter the door at a certain time based on that, you get... There's pretty much a table of patterns that are available, and based on when you enter the door,
get the mystic keys
you can look at that table and know the exact doors you're going to go into.
Yeah, so he stopped there for a second and looked at the light. He's trying to hit a very specific frame whenever he hits that door, because on specific frames, that's when the game decides where the doors are going to be. So if you hit the same frame every time, the door layout will be the same every time.
And if you go to this stage, ideally, you're pretty much always going to get the same layout, but since that's not always the case, pretty much after checking the first 2 doors, if a Jarmar isn't already aware of which pattern he's going to get, he's pretty sure what he's going to get after checking the first 2 doors.
Yeah, the one other thing that's really nice about this is you can see the red rooms have different layouts. Like, one of them had a U in the bottom, that one is sort of like a stair pattern. The last room is the one you'll always fight the boss in, and if you can get a flat room to fight the boss in, that's going to give you the best pattern. So, because you'll be able to use the newly acquired Hail Attack, which is Calvarian's EX skill, sort of like a saber dashing charge. And it does a whole lot of damage, but you can only really use it if the terrain suits it.
Alright, that was actually pretty easy.
So here you'll
I wasted
a
spell, but...
The reason it's so good is because it combos into itself, just like 1000 slash dice. But each hit does 6 damage.
Hardly matters.
So that's 18 total damage, which is a whole lot.
$10 from Quest. Had to donate during my all-time favorite Mega Man series, Mega Man 0. This bit of cash is going towards getting some more Yoshi's Island.
And with that, that should be all the 8 Mutos taken care of. So we just gotta revisit to the Devil Babies after some cutscenes here.
Yep. You won't see any of this, but you gotta talk to Sage Harpuya, and you have to talk to Seal here as well. But you can skip
this
all
one's
the
empty, I'm
cutscenes
calling it.
Another pretty short stage, but once again, it's riddled with spikes. So you'll see a Jarmar just sort of floating through this whole section here, avoiding all the spikes. He said it's no big deal.
There's a lot of zigzag rooms here, so you'll really be able to see just how strong the Flood Laser is if you know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, wow, they're really weak.
And then the second Baby Elves fight here is pretty much the same as the first, except now we have a bunch more skills and techniques, so the fight's going to be hopefully even faster than the first one was.
Same rules apply. Same health bar, but different iframe, so just pile on the damage in each one. And for some reason, this is the only cutscene we can't skip. It's supposed to be a very touching scene, I guess.
It really doesn't come across that way.
Yeah.
It's the final stage, right?
Yeah, that was quick. So, typical fashion, we got refights coming up, and they are scattered throughout a main stage, which is also very annoying. Once again, a lot of spikes going on the stage, but it's a pretty short walk to the first set of refights.
So the refights, the way they're laid out, it's pretty much how they're laid out in the main game. There's 2 sets of 4 teleporters with some sort of stage platforming in between. The first 4 are the first 4 we fought, which would be Hellbat, Childray, Mantis, and Blizzard. And all of these guys are Gale attackable because the terrain allows for it. So the most important thing in these fights is spacing, because you need to be able to get all 3 hits off without taking damage and interrupting your Gale attack.
Yeah, it's pretty much just the same bosses, but since we have so many more techniques and weapons, most of them are going to be going a lot faster.
Yeah, you'll also see them start with the reflect laser on most of these bosses. It's really easy to carry a charge into the refights just by holding the button, and that makes it so that you need only 1 less Gale attack hitting, so there's a little bit more leniency there. These other 2 bosses are pretty much the same, so this would be a really good time for donations if there are any.
Oh, trust me, there are plenty of the people who love Mega Man. The people have good taste, if I do say so myself. Have a $50 donation from Ongaku Overdrive. I always love watching Mega Man block for GDQ. Let's bust some cancer. And DJ Squarewave donates $150. Had to donate while my buddy Rename was on the couch. Best of luck to all the runners.
See, this is the last refight here, and I brought up before that you want to avoid the bubbles in his original fight, but this one actually, you noticed him walk a little bit beforehand. That's because bubbles are actually factored in to the manipulation of this one.
Yep, since bubbles advance RNG, you want a very specific amount of them, which you can get just by walking forward a little bit.
I messed up a little bit, but
close enough. We didn't notice. It's good. This section here is very annoying because in addition to spikes and these enemies all over, there is icy terrain, so he's going to need a terrain glitch a lot to get past it. Once again, the reflect laser is taking a lot of work too. It's going all around the corners, taking care of the enemies.
So the second four here are the last four, which would be Cacting, Fogstar, Calvarian, and Volteal. Two of these guys are Gale attackable, the first two. So here's Cacting again.
Welcome back, buddy. A little remorse, I think, yeah. Can't believe he's dead. And the order he's doing these in is based on just pretty much health, right? Making sure.
Yeah. The only thing that really matters is that you're doing Volteal last, because since Volteal's terrain is forced to be sort of uneven, you can't really Gale attack him at all. So you need to switch to Ice. In sort of the same vein, Calvarian's going to be coming up here, and you can't really Gale attack him either since his hitbox is too far off the ground. So Andrawa is actually going to be doing a little manipulation here, where he'll blink a P-shot off of it, and that'll roll the RNG to get a much better pattern.
God damn it. That's fine.
Just got Volteal coming up.
Volteal and then Omega.
Swap into the ice chip there. In addition to what Horse said, we're also going to be using the, what's it called? Spike Icicle move?
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay. Which will also come into play on Omega 1.
I keep wanting to say Ice Javelin, but that's not it. That's Z4.
Yeah. Just another quick section here with some blind balls into spikes. I think we got the last couple bosses coming up.
So there's going to be three quick bosses here. The first one, Golden Omega, is sort of the same as the intro boss. He has some different attacks, but because of the pattern he gives, you won't be
I'll buy another house.
The next one, the second floor, is
I'll
where
get more
Virgo's
sauce.
going to come in handy. See, there's this pit beside him, so if we were to try to Saber Smash it, we just fall in the pit. That's where the Bird Elf's going to come in handy. Lets us just go up, down, and then in the pit, and then repeat.
And there was also that pellet shot I think you mentioned before at the beginning to make sure you
It's a better pattern.
Yeah. And after this is a really tough boss, so...
Time is coming up, though, as soon as this guy's health hits 0.
As soon as this guy's health hits 0. Nice.
This is a very scary boss.
Alright.
I think he can kill you in like a combo of 2 hits.
Yeah,
I could probably grind some more
Yeah.
in the next episode before I continue with the plot. Fill out the level 4 and 3 plots.
Very nice.
But for now, that's gonna be it.
Good stuff.
Yeah. That time actually ends there, but